It is Saturday, June 25th, 2020, and decentralization is something that, in my opinion, is overall a good thing. There was something that came out from the United States government on the 24th on a Friday. And my overall thoughts on the matter and the issue are I'm a fan of decentralization, allowing people to make their own choice about things. With that being said, I do want to say thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for joining me. A lot of stuff going on, man. It's starting to become summer, starting to become nice and warm outside. We've had a couple days here in Pittsburgh where it's been 90s. I'm really not used to that because I'm used to living on the East Coast, pretty close to the water in Connecticut, southeastern Connecticut. And so pretty close to the water, less than an hour away from the water. So I was able to, in the summer times, if there was a breeze, there was a little bit of that ocean in it, which I think kept the summers much cooler. So I'm not really used to heat like this. I'm also not used to being so far away from water, big bodies of water. Yeah, there's rivers and yes, but I'm talking about the ocean. With that being said, I want to say thank you very, very much for tuning in, listening, watching. If you're on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, whatever it is, thank you very much for listening. I hope today's podcast is interesting, and I want to kind of get it started because last time I did a YouTube video, I actually got copywritten. I didn't get a strike on my channel or anything on my YouTube channel, but I don't know. Maybe if I start getting enough views to the point where I can actually monetize the channel, I would not do that. But until the time being, I'm probably going to do that. So in the future, I'm saying I possibly could try and use videos that will get my channel copyright infringements, I believe is what it is. But with that being said, you can see me right up here in the little corner. The bizarre news story of the day. Jupiter apparently eats other planets. So this is an article that was sent to me by one of my friends. Well, not sent to me, sent in a group chat. I was in the group chat. And interesting take on things. So kind of what this article says, all things considered, Jupiter seems like a pretty scary place. More than 300 times bigger than Earth, the king of planets has double the strength of our gravity and an exceptionally dense, dry atmosphere. Some scientists now reckon that Jupiter could have been even more beastly than we previously thought. An article in the Journal of Astronomy and Astrophysics says that the planet may have become its ginormous, monstrous self by eating other planets. Paper suggests Jupiter has the remain of other planets inside of it. Although the theory that Jupiter is born out of other planets has been around for a while, a clearer picture was revealed after the planet's infamous gases temporarily parted and NASA's Juno space probe was able to get some data about its core. Very cool, very lucky for that Juno mission. And it goes on a little bit to talk about kind of the making of Jupiter. And I ultimately believe that this is why that it's so important, because kind of hard to, you can look at kind of what the atmosphere is made out of and kind of guesstimate what elements are in the atmosphere and kind of see what possibly the core could be made out of. I think there's other ways to do it with telescopes. Once again, folks, if this is your first time listening, I'm not an expert on this. I'm an enthusiast. And I try and get my very basic knowledge that I got from taking basically 3 years of astronomy courses. No physics courses, did not take any physics courses, but I took astronomy courses. So my knowledge on this is pretty much base level. I just am enthused about this kind of stuff. I find it interesting. With that being said, I want to go back over and share the screen and talk about this paper as well, because I do think it is interesting, and I think it is cool thing to talk about. I mean, the idea that there's a planet in our solar system. Now, if you are aware, the early solar system of ours, where Earth before it had life, although there is some talks about life being billions of years old, maybe coming maybe like three plus billion years old. Some people have said that there's evidence of that. I'm not sure. It's something I only just saw it in passing, and I didn't want to talk about in length because I just didn't know too much about that subject. But with this, I think it does tie into kind of the early universe and how Jupiter was basically the protector. And that's something I definitely am going to try and portray over here as we go over to this secondary window. Let me get my cursor over here. There we go. Jupiter's inhomogeneous envelope. This is in the astronomy and astrophysics. And then let me go back to that first article. First article to shout them out. Timeout.com, bizarre news story of the day. Jupiter apparently eats other planets. That's the name of the article, written by Ed Cunningham. So make sure you go check that out. And now let's go back over to the astronomy and astrophysics. This is the study that they did talk about in the article, posted in June 2022. Bunch of different authors on this. So received January 27, accepted in March, and then just posted. So let me just read the abstract context. While Jupiter's massive gas envelope consists mainly of hydrogen and helium, the key to understanding Jupiter's formation and evolution lies in the distribution of the remaining, in quotes, heavy elements. Before the Juno mission, the lack of high precision gravity harmonics precluded the use of statistical analysis and a robust determination of the heavy element distribution in Jupiter's envelope. This is going to be a little tough for me to understand because this gets really technical, really technical. Moving onwards, aims. In this paper, we assembled the most comprehensive and diverse collection of Jupiter interior models to date and use it to study the distribution of heavy elements in the planet's envelope. Methods. We apply a Bayesian, Bayesian statistical approach to our interior model calculations, reproducing the Juno gravitational atmospheric measurements and constraints from the deep zonal flows. And then the results. Our results show that the gravity constraints lead to a deep entropy of Jupiter corresponding to a 1 bar temperature that is 515 Kelvin higher than traditionally assumed. We also find that uncertainties in the equation of state are crucial when determining the amount of heavy elements in Jupiter's interior. And then it continues on. Furthermore, we robustly demonstrate that Jupiter's envelope is inhomogeneous with a heavy element enrichment in the interior. This implies, inhomogeneous with a heavy element enrichment in the interior relative to the outer envelope. Interesting. This implies that heavy element enrichment continued through the gas accretion phase, with important implications for the formation of giant planets in our solar system and beyond. So I think they're talking about when Jupiter was in its so-called creation, as it was forming. Yeah, kind of looking at the introduction. If you are watching this, read the introduction as well. Once again, folks, this is a pretty technical article, and I reading over this, I had a hard time trying to decipher it, but I just wanted to show that this is the article that they are referencing. So it does talk about the kind of the birth of the planet of Jupiter. And as you can see here, they kind of talk about how the core of it is actually different from what they had expected. Let's go to this picture right here. Big year one. You can see the difference in the atmosphere. So you have, if you're watching this on the A model, you have, I think this is dihydrogen. Once again, helium poor, and then zinc, I believe. Mono zinc, I believe. I don't know, folks. I'm a little bit out of my element right now. I'm not going to lie to you, but this is just kind of looking at what their core of the planet is from what they've been able to gather around and look at. And then we got a bunch more gravity stuff and how gravity played an effect, results. All of our models reproduce J2 and Jupiter's radius. Okay, a bunch more stuff that I really don't know. I want to read the conclusion though. This study comprehensively reproduces observational constraints from the Juno measurements, along with helium measurements from the Galileo probe, exploring different models for Jupiter's interior and considering all recent equations of state. We showed that the gravity constraints point to a deep entropy of Jupiter that corresponds to a 1 bar temperature that is higher than traditionally assumed. We robustly demonstrate that the heavy element abundance is not homogeneous in Jupiter's envelope. Our results imply that here's the thing. Our results imply that Jupiter continued to accrete heavy elements in large amounts while its hydrogen and helium envelope was growing, contrary to prediction based on the pebble isolation mask in its simplest incarnation. Interesting. Interesting. Furthermore, the envelope did not mix completely during the planet's subsequent evolution, not even when Jupiter was young and hot. So kind of what I was able to take away from this was that in the beginning of Jupiter, as it was slowly building, it was slowly gaining mass and beginning to come to a certain point where it was actually able to form a core and then form a what's the word I'm looking for? No, I guess they use envelope, but when I think of that, I think of atmosphere. I guess I'll just call it atmosphere. But I think when you do look at things like this with Jupiter and kind of how big it has become and how much of an impact it has had on the universe as a whole, really important to kind of know how it was able to start and if it was able to I mean, based on what they are saying in this piece, is that they are able to find that there are things kind of that were brought in, the heavy elements, things that you most likely would not see just out and about. It would mean that something would have to go into Jupiter's orbit and be a little bit eaten up by Jupiter in order to get that, because you're not going to be able to create that out of nothing, obviously. So I guess kind of the idea in this is that when you are early in the stage, such as Jupiter, I don't know if they're going to extrapolate this out, but I think in this case, what they are saying is that big giant planet like Jupiter early on was able to get a lot of its mass because it was able to get heavy elements from objects in its vicinity around it, which could possibly mean other planets that might have been in the solar system that were close to Jupiter and over a period. I mean, this could be billions of years, this could be millions of years of time in which it took for them to orbit around the sun, for them to most likely collide, and then Jupiter ultimately take a lot of the heavy elements from that smaller planet. I think that's kind of what this is talking about, because one funny thing that I saw is this right over here. One thing is Jupiter is pretty big. According to Newton's law of universal gravitation, Jupiter pulls you 34 million times less than Earth pulls you down. And then here's the other thing I wanted to talk about. By deflecting comets and asteroids that might otherwise hit Earth, Jupiter has helped to create a more stable environment for life to evolve here. And it talks about 65 million years ago, asteroid that took out the Earth. I think that is part of the importance of this specific paper that came out, and the reason why maybe there was another planet that was here and it was able to impact with Jupiter very early on in the timeline of our solar system. And maybe it was able to suck some stuff up, interesting stuff. And then moving on to our next thing, I wanted to kind of switch topics and talk a little bit about fitness. Talk about weightlifting. Literally thought of it today. So one thing that I have been doing, because I haven't been working like crazy amount of hours. So I have been able to spend a lot of time working on like fitness, like running in the morning, going to work, coming back, sometimes running again. And we're only talking, I really don't run more. I've never really run more than like 5 miles in a day. So I'm not doing crazy distances because it is pretty hot outside. It's pretty hot outside. But with that being said, I've been going to the gym quite recently. And today I went to the gym, and my schedule currently right now, let me pull it up. Let me see my schedule. So I first had a app called Fitbod, and it's an app which you can kind of have a program built for you. You can say what your goals are, what your weight is. I really like it. You put in all the stuff that you want. Do you want to get put on muscle? Do you want to build strength? Do you want to lean out? Do you want to do cardio? Do you want to rest in between your workouts? How long do you want your workouts? This is all stuff that you can set up. So you have it set up a workout program for you. And you can also program it that to have workouts once your muscles are recovered to a certain percentage. And so it takes kind of, obviously your first workout, everything's 100%. But let's say you do arms and legs one day. You work out your biceps and your legs as well. Then you are able to go the next day. And on that next day, you're able to kind of see, okay, now I have these two things. This one's 67% recovered. The other one's 53 based on the amount of weight that you pulled in relation to your overall ability, like your 1 rep max, to do that. And so it kind of goes over time. Well, once you're like 2-3 weeks in, it's really good because it's like, oh, what did I do 2 days ago? Because sometimes you're not going to be super sore depending on the kind of work that you do. So you can look and be like, it's a Sunday. I'm not really doing anything. I kind of want to work on some stuff that I don't really feel tired with, but maybe I want to do something that has been really recovered because I didn't work on it on a Tuesday 6 days ago super hard. So I don't remember if I did like a lot of like sets till failure and that kind of stuff. So I think it was really, really good for, and still is really good for kind of tracking your stuff while you're working out. Because for me, I in the past have not tracked stuff. And also one of the best features about it is that it has 1 rep maxes. So on certain days, sometimes randomly, it will assign a 1 rep max. And also you can change the amount of reps that you do. For if it says do 12 reps of bicep curls of 50 pounds, you can change it to be 15 sets. You can do it, be like, I can do 15 and I go till failure. So then you can change the number. It's not like it says, this is what you do, this is what you do. No, it pulls out a list and it says, these are the exercises you can do. You can replace an exercise. You can completely delete an exercise as well. You can superset exercises. Very cool tool. And so I've been using that for a couple of months. I've done over like 200 exercises with that. I absolutely loved it. And then kind of recently I've been like, there's a couple exercises in there that I would like to start incorporating into my exercise. And also it is kind of difficult to I do use it on my phone, but I also can connect to an Apple Watch as well. And you're able to say, okay, I just did a set. I just did a set. All right, did my full set. And then at the end, you can put, if the exercise was no effort, you could do like 5 to 10 more reps. Easy, you could do like it's like 5+ reps. Ideal, according to Fitbod, which is like, could have done like 2 to 5 more reps. Hard, 1 to 2 more reps, and then max effort is 0 more reps. And so after each full amount of sets, say you have 4 sets of bicep curls, after you finish those 4 sets, you can put down how much it is, and then it can calculate then what your 1 rep max is. And then once you get to the 1 rep maxes, that calculates forward, and then all of the weights of your things will adjust as well. I think it really helped improve my like a lot of compound lifts, such as my squat, and bench press and dumbbell bench press, especially because you're able to see, okay, last month I was able to do 12 reps of 50 pounds. Now I can do 11 of 60. So cool thing. But I have stopped using it because there wasn't some exercises there was exercise in there that were not in there. If you catch what I'm saying. They didn't have all the exercises that I wanted. And also it is kind of annoying if I'm listening to a YouTube video, like a podcast on YouTube or something, and I can't play it in the background. So every time I finish a set, and I want to say how like difficult it was or something like that, I have to close out of YouTube, put it down, and then go back. It's not a huge thing, but I was just like, I just want to listen to something, be in the zone the whole time, and just get my sets done. So since then, I started doing a workout split and making my own, and then kind of using the things in Fitbod, like those workouts, like some of the things that I didn't think of before were exercises I now can kind of do. So with that being said, here's my current workout split. So I do it Monday through Sunday. Monday I do legs. Not really any focus on which part of the leg. Should I go heavy, light? Doesn't matter. It's kind of whatever I'm feeling. I also try and go for at least an hour in the gym. Tuesday, chest, strictly only chest workouts, no tricep workouts, no arm exercises, nothing. Just pretty much bench press, incline, bench press as well. Flies, pec flies with the cables, pec fly machines, pretty much every single chest exercise I can do. Wednesday, shoulders and traps. So that's a lot of for trapezius, the trapezius muscle, the trap. A lot of shrugs and things of that nature. And then with shoulders, lateral raises, shoulder press, pretty much a lot, if not all, of the exercises that I know. A lot of it does come from Fitbod as well. Obviously, I knew about the shoulder press and the lateral raise and stuff like that, but there are some other exercises too that I didn't realize, like a lot of rear deltoid. So right on the back of your shoulder, those kind of exercises I really like doing as well. So that's Wednesday. Thursday, back, probably my favorite day. I think back day is probably my favorite because I like it because it's kind of like a muscle where over time, if I do a really long workout, it's pretty much the one muscle where I don't feel super tired by the end of it, where I can't even do like 1 or 2 reps. Like leg day, especially for me, is something where if I do um 10 reps of like a 135-pound back squat in the beginning of the workout, I'd do like 4 sets of that. And then I go back at the end of the thing, I could barely even do like 2 or 3 reps because my legs just get so tired. Most of the times it is because I usually run a lot during the week and usually on that day as well. However, on Fridays, I really don't run because by that time I've already done another leg exercise a couple days later, and also then 1, 2, 3 days later I'm going to do legs again. So on that on the Friday day, I usually tend not to run, whereas pretty much every other day I run. Usually not on the weekends. I don't run, mostly because of laziness, mostly because it's hot as well. But with that being said, Friday legs, Saturday, so that's today, biceps and triceps. So this is specifically only arms. A lot of times I'm doing the same exercises over and over and over and over again. But what I like to do is I like to switch it up. So sometimes I do one where I do a bunch of weight and I focus on my form really well, and I go pretty much until failure. And then I cut the weight in half and I do it then until failure. So I'm doing like one thing where I'm doing like 4 or 5 reps, and then another one where I'm doing like 15. And I like that as well because I feel like it's a different way to kind of, because you can change the tempo as well. With the heavy weight, you can try and do as much force as possible, whereas with the lighter weight, try and go slow and steady the whole time. I really like doing that for both the bicep and the tricep as well. And actually today, there is something that I wanted to touch on, but then getting back to the workout split, finally on Sunday is when I do a full body day. So I've only done this like 2 or 3 times. I mean, we're like 3 weeks into June, so I've been doing this pretty much all June. Anything on my body where I feel like I'm not super sore, where I want to kind of work out and try and like anything on my body where I want to get like better improvements, like say I want to start really emphasizing my chest or my shoulders or something like that, then I would do a slight day of that, especially when it comes to chest because I'm doing chest on Tuesdays, and then same thing with legs. I'm doing legs on Monday, but shoulders and that kind of stuff, not too worried about it. Even back exercises as well, not too worried about it because I am going to have a long rest period in between. So if something doesn't feel super sore, um, then I'm most likely going to do an exercise to hit that. Maybe some running as well. I'm more likely to run on a Sunday than I am on a Saturday. And also it kind of helps because I don't have to be in the gym on a Sunday for 2, 3 hours. I can be there for 30 minutes to an hour. Just a quick in and out thing. It's more of like maintenance for me. And if I want to focus on something specifically, I can do that as well. So that's kind of my workout split right now. And now moving over to what I wanted to talk about is this right over here. So I was doing obviously my biceps and tricep exercises today. And here is the thing that I was able to see. As you can see, I'm looking at W-shaped barbell attachment. That is what I am looking up. And I use this today. They really don't have exactly what it is, but it kind of looks like this. This is kind of what it looks like. You can imagine here on the left. And for those that are listening, I apologize. It looks like a straight bar. It's maybe be 2 feet wide, 2, 3 feet wide, and kind of looks like a W. but it is able to rotate as well, which I really like. So kind of what I like doing with this is I like putting this on a cable and doing multiple exercises with it. So as you can see, moving on to this picture here, here are two bodybuilders. You might know the guy over here on the left, but if here's where I want to focus on the hand placement. This is the same bar. As you can see, it's got that W shaped, but Arnold has his hands on the outside edge of it. And if you go back to this, imagine this in this image over here on the left, and on the outer side part of it, you're able to pull from there with the edges of it, I guess you would call it, the place where your hands are. Your hands are pointed pretty much at a 45-degree angle out from the center of your body. So you're not going inwards at all, kind of directly up. So if you were to continue that line out, you'd be raising your arms instead of lowering. So that's kind of how the bar would be placed to work the bicep. And I really liked it because I did it with a cable and I was able to do multiple kind of movements with it. And I really, really liked it because you can also do this other one where it's not this one isn't the same kind of bar, but if you do look at it, you can kind of see how the hands are inside and now they're at a different at the same angle as they were on the outside, but they're just closer together. And that's more of a traditional type of bicep curl, or it feels more natural, definitely. But with the other one, I like how I feel it more on the outside of my bicep, which I will talk about right now. So looking at the bicep, you have the short head and the long head. So in terms of, now I don't know if this actually hits the long head at all, but I do feel it when I have my hands on the outside edge of that W-shaped attachment, whatever it is. I feel it more on the long head of the bicep than when I'm on the inside. I feel that much more on the short head. That one I definitely feel much more on the short head, whereas the other one, it sort of feels like it's on the long head. I'm not super able to do it, but take that same approach and apply it opposite. So you hold the thing the opposite way, and instead of pulling up, you're actually pushing down. You're doing a tricep push down. Same exact thing. Uh, Obviously, the hand placement will be the opposite. So you're actually taking the attachment and flipping it upside down and using it the same way when you're on the outside. So instead of having it pointing up, you're going to have pointing down so that your hands can be angled down for when you push it down. And I really like that for my triceps. I was able to really feel that, especially on the outside, on the outer edge. I was able to feel that. And then once I changed my grip and I got closer together, I was definitely able to feel that on the inside. I loved it as a tricep exercise where I was going further out and then brought it back in, further out and brought it back in. Really big fan of that. And so that's a cool thing that you can do. And it's only one attachment. And there's 4 different exercises that you can do. And for my arms, I probably spent like 20-25 minutes just doing workouts on that. And it really, really felt good on my arms. I recommend it. I recommend you going to next time you go to the gym to try that one out. I really like that. All right, so moving on, switching subjects, sports. I know it's a little late, but the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship. I watched pretty much every single game. I think I missed game 5. Game 5, I don't think I watched. I did see game 6 though, when the Warriors ultimately did win. And I guess overall take on that series would be one, the Celtics supporting cast was extremely good, but Jason Tatum was completely didn't show up really. For the Golden State side of things, I think the number one thing for them is their defense. They were able to absolutely shut down Jason Tatum. He was not able to get to his spots. He was not able to get an open shot. Andrew Wiggins played terrific defense on him all series. Even in game 6, there was a couple possessions where Steph Curry played really good defense on him. Obviously, Draymond, great defensive mind, really good at kind of guiding everybody on the floor. So their defensive plan against Jason Tatum was just really good. He never felt like he was open. He always felt like he had a contested shot. He never was able to do any type of moves and break anybody down off the dribble. Very hard for him to score. And I think that's ultimately what the Warriors did. And then they also had a lot of their good young players contribute. You have Andrew Wiggins, obviously. He had a couple games in there where he was 20 plus points and he was able to play great defense against Jason Tatum. And then even on games where Steph Curry wasn't hitting all of his threes. And I mean, you look at offensively, Jordan Poole. I mean, you think of in those games where going into halftime or the third quarter, those buzzer beater half court shots that he hit. Obviously, it's still 3 points, but after a third quarter where they completely demolish the Celtics, which the Warriors tend to do, they tend to have very good third quarters historically over the past couple of years. They were able to come out and put on a great third quarter and then have Jordan Poole hit a half court shot to just drive it in even more. It's like these guys cannot miss. And I think overall that was really good for kind of the team as a whole, because I just felt like they were just so much more energized. A call didn't go their way. They weren't complaining as much as the Celtics later on in the series. Games 4 and 6. I didn't watch 5. So games 4 and 6, I definitely felt as though the Warriors were just in their groove. Call didn't go their way. They didn't react as poorly as I thought the Celtics did. Obviously, there were some individual things where they didn't interact great. I mean, you had Draymond Green, who had a bunch of fouls in the series, but overall, I really thought that the story was the supporting cast of the Celtics played absolutely phenomenal. That first game, it was Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Those were the best players on the court that night. And then obviously Steph Curry was really good. He had that really fire first quarter where you're like 20 plus points. This guy can't miss. Like he's coming for blood. They might even sweep him. But look at the end of that first quarter. The game was less than 10 points. Both teams were within each other fairly close. I think Golden State was up by a couple of points, but it might have been less than 5 points. And Steph Curry had scored 20 plus points, but the Celtics were able to come right back. Al Horford would always be there to hit a three. He was phenomenal in that game on the perimeter. But the thing is, over the course of the series, that supporting cast wasn't able to do that night after night. I mean, the leading scorers after game 1 were, I believe, Al Horford, number 1, and then Marcus Smart following him, followed by Jaylen Brown. And that's not a good recipe if you're the Celtics. You want Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to be your leading scorers. And the other thing about the Celtics is Jaylen Brown in that series looked like their best player. With that being said, I don't think he is their best player, nor do I think he was their best player in the series. I think the best player in the series for the Celtics was Jason Tatum. I mean, he didn't play good on paper, but I also think he was being shut down defensively. And yeah, it was a really bad look. He was turning over the ball a lot. But I have to give credit to the Warriors. I think the Warriors defense is what made Jason Tatum not be as effective. More so, obviously he does have some blame, most definitely. But I felt that the Warriors defense had more of an impact than say Jason Tatum just choking in the finals. I don't believe that is what happened. I think the Warriors played great defense. But now Steph Curry wins his fourth NBA championship, and he won his first NBA Finals MVP. And so that brings us to the conversation of the day. Let me just go right into it, I guess. Now that Steph Curry has won his championship, this is what the folks are talking about. Where does Stephen Curry rank all time after fourth championship? I really liked this article. It is kind of talking about how good Steph Curry is. Yeah, Steph Curry is really good. But I do like some of the graphs that they use to kind of compare Steph Curry. Here's the NBA Finals career performances. Now, here's the thing you have to remember. Steph Curry has won one Finals MVP award in 4 finals. The first finals was in 2015. Andre Iguodala won the NBA Finals MVP. 2016, they lost to the Cavaliers. LeBron James won an NBA Finals MVP. 2017, Kevin Durant comes. He wins Finals MVP for the Warriors. 2018, Kevin Durant wins Finals MVP again. And now in 2022, the Warriors win the title again, and Steph Curry is now the NBA Finals MVP. So that's pretty much the number one thing for me. If we're talking about being one of the 10 best players to ever play in the NBA, I need you to be, I mean, maybe the only exception would be a Shaquille O'Neal. If we're talking about top 10 players of guys where there is no question that they should be a Finals MVP. I mean, pretty much even in most losses, you could say LeBron is Finals MVP, even in some of those against the Warriors. 2018. I think it's extremely important to think about that when talking about these players. But going to the NBA final career performances, the finals record of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Magic Johnson. So finals record, Jordan leads 24-11, good for 68.6% winning percentage, followed by Steph Curry, who's 21-13, 61.8%, followed by Magic, who's 24-26, 48%, and lastly, LeBron James, who's 22-33 for 40% win total. Obviously, I'm going to talk about later who my thoughts on the best players are, but just to kind of talk about kind of what more is going on in this. Then you have points, rebounds, the stats for all of them as well, 2 points, true shooting, all that kind of stuff. Yes, Steph Curry has been phenomenal in the NBA Finals. I would say that he kind of fell short in 2015. He definitely did have moments, but when you look at who he was playing against, I mean, you didn't have Kyrie Irving in that series. You had Matthew Dellavedova, who was guarding Steph Curry. I don't know. I don't think Matthew Dellavedova, if any of you know of him, not the best defender in the world, not the best point guard in the world. And he was one of the primary defenders on Steph Curry. But good to know that he has done very well in finals. Here's another thing that I like to look at. So this is kind of a look at all of the awards. I mean, you look at Steph Curry, 4 titles, 1 Finals MVP, 2 regular season MVPs, including one that was unanimous, the first ever, 8 All-Star appearance, 8 All NBAs, 0 All Defenses, and 2 scoring titles. So already right there, I feel a little suspect. I mean, the only people who were not on this list, so let's go through the list overall. LeBron, Jordan, I don't think this is in order. LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, Magic, Duncan, Bryant, Curry, Bird, Wilt, Shaq, Kevin Durant, Bill Russell, and Hakeem Olajuwon. The only other player besides Steph Curry who was not on an all defensive team, including Bill Russell, they defensive recognition started in 1969. So much of the time while Bill Russell wasn't playing, there was no all defensive teams. Keep that in mind. And even still, Steph Curry and Magic Johnson are the only 2 players who were never selected to an all defensive team among these here. Interesting. The other thing with Steph Curry is early in his career, when he got drafted, let's go over here. Let's look. No, I'm not trying to bash on Steph Curry, obviously, but he wasn't even rookie of the year. His rookie year. 8-time All-Star. 8-time All-Star. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years in the league. He's been an All-Star 8 times. Interesting. You look at his early days, playing 36 minutes at 21 years old for the Golden State Warriors. He had 80 games and started in 77 of those. Averaged 17.5 points, 5.9 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 1.9 steals. So he's never been a real terrible defender, especially early on. Then for 3-point percentage, he averaged 4.8 3-point attempts, making 2.1. And his overall shooting percentage is 46.2. So definitely not a bad rookie season. Now, I'm too young to remember when he came into the league. But the Warriors already did have Monte Ellis, and they were trying to figure out kind of where do we go from here. So over the course of Steph Curry's career, he's obviously increased his first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. He increased his point total. And then in 2015 and 16, he led the league not only in free throw percentage for the second year in a row, but also with steals and points, or points per game and steals per game. So that's when he kind of popped onto the scene. I mean, 2014 to 15, he was kind of big. I remember that because I was in high school. That's when he kind of jumped on. 2015 to 16, that's when he was like, oh man, that's crazy. But it was his third year being an all-star as well. And I was like, whoa, very, very interesting. And then he also led the league in scoring last year, 2020-2021 season at 32 years old. Averaging 12.7 3-point attempts, the most in his career, making 5.3 per game. Pretty ridiculous. But even with that, he has not made an all-defensive team, which I think is interesting. He has 2 scoring titles, which I don't think is a huge thing. I mean, you look at the other players on this list. Magic Johnson has 0. Tim Duncan has 0. Larry Bird has 0. Hakeem Olajuwon has 0. And Bill Russell has 0. Now, among that list, I would say Steph Curry is one of the best. He might be one, and then like 1A and 1B would probably be, in terms of scores, Duncan or Olajuwon. Those are probably the two other scores. I think Olajuwon better in the post, but I think for Duncan, he's better um, as a spot up shooter. So he can hurt you in multiple ways on the offensive end, more so than Hakeem can. I mean, Hakeem, if you look at a post player, he's like, there's really no argument that, I mean, maybe you could say Shaq, but in terms of just the ability to move in the post, watch some videos on him, watch him win back-to-back NBA championships, watch what he was able to do to the league, watch him become the all-time leader in blocks. In my mind, probably one of, if not the greatest defensive player of all time. But obviously, defense isn't the number one thing when it comes to best players of all time. But in my mind, what makes a good basketball player is somebody who can give it to you on the offensive end, but also give it to you on the defensive end. That's what I kind of value. But you do see Magic, and here is one thing I do want to say about Magic Johnson. Let's look up Magic Johnson. Let's see kind of what he was working with. Magic Johnson. Here we go. Oh, brought me back. 1980, drafted in 1980. In 1982, won a championship. Pretty crazy. 18 points, 7.3 assists, 7.7 rebounds. He shot 53% from the field as a rookie, 20 years old. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy, I must say so myself. But over his career, you look at the steals that he was able to have. Rookie year, 2.4 steals per game. His second year, led the league in steals, 3.4. Year after that, led the league again in 2.7 steals per game. Pretty crazy. And then obviously he's led the league in assists 4 times in his career. And I believe per game, he is second all time in assists per game at 11.2 behind John Stockton. Unequivocally the best point guard of all time. You can kind of look and see what he's done. I mean, you even look at the playoffs. Rookie season, he comes in, leads the playoffs in assists, steals, and averages 18 points, 10.5 rebounds. Wins the championship for the Lakers, basically playing center for them because Kareem's out. Just an absolute dominant player. And definitely no slouch on the defensive end. I mean, for his playoff career, he averaged 1.9, almost 2 steals a game. So with that being said, and some of those years, I mean, you look at 95, 96, he was very old. He had taken multiple years off, and he didn't play that well. He was averaged 15 points, 6.5 assists, 8.5 rebounds. So even when he was old and he was already diagnosed with HIV, still able to put up really good numbers. 3-time finals MVP, 10 times all NBA, 5-time champ. I mean, absolutely not even a question, the greatest point guard of all time. I don't think Steph Curry sniffs him, even though Steph Curry is a fantastic, I would say, scorer. I'd rather have Steph Curry than Magic Johnson. But offensively, give me Magic Johnson. I think Magic Johnson is, he wasn't a great shooter. However, he's 6'9" as a point guard, giant point guard, great ball handling skills, really good at being able to obviously pass the ball, great court vision, court awareness, all that kind of stuff. Super, super valuable player. But to each their own. I mean, you can think that Steph Curry is a better offensive player. I wouldn't be mad at you. Here's another thing in this article that I thought was interesting as well. Highest winning percentage in NBA playoff history among top 50 in wins. So top 3 players all are from one team. So wins, losses, tied for first is Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. 102 wins, 43 losses apiece. 70.3% winning percentage. Followed by Steph Curry, 93 wins, 41 losses for 69.4% winning percentage. Followed by Dennis Rodman, 116 wins, 53 losses. Michael Cooper, 115 wins, 53 losses. Followed by Sean Livingston, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Michael Jordan, John Sally, Steve Kerr, Byron Scott, LeBron James, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and the list goes on. And I think this is actually, I don't know if this really helps Steph's case per se. I mean, you can say Steph makes his teammates better, but I think when you have Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, you have to say for basically 3 years, the other person that they had was this guy named Kevin Durant, who himself 95 wins, 60 losses in the playoffs, and that was also in OKC for a multitude of years. Repeated as champs with the Golden State Warriors. I think that has to be part of the conversation when it comes to evaluating Steph Curry as an all-time great. Because when they had Kevin Durant, the offense ran through Steph, but he was not the best player on their team. Some people definitely would have thought would argue that. I would say that Kevin Durant was a better basketball player than Steph Curry at that time on a team. And I think Steph was in his prime. I think one of the issues is Steph would get hurt earlier in his career. He got hurt a couple years ago, missed an entire season. And quite honestly, I think the Warriors are just one of the greatest coaching staffs and defensive teams that we have seen. And obviously the three-pointer, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, two of the greatest three-point shooters of all time on the same team. And Klay Thompson can play really good defense. Draymond Green, really good defender. I do have to say it is interesting to kind of see this. Then we have high efficient, high volume playoff scores in terms of points per game. Yeah, I get it. Relative true shooting percentage. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Are you telling me this is kind of most efficient high volume playoff scores ever, minimum 25 points per game? Steph Curry is number one at points per game. He's number one at true shooting percentage at 60.8%. The relative true shooting percentage is 5.9. And his effective field goal is 55.9%, followed by Kevin Durant. True shooting is 59.8%. LeBron James, 58.3%, followed by Dirk, Giannis, Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Jerry West, Bob Pettit, Elgin Baylor, and Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is at 48.9% true shooting percentage, averaging 29.7 points per game. With that being said, I look at this list and I'm like, okay, you telling me what? Yeah, he's very good at scoring. He's also very good at shooting threes. I understand that he's a great scorer of the basketball, and he doesn't need to take as many shots as, say, a Michael Jordan, who's going to do a lot more shots inside of the three-point line. But give me Michael Jordan. Give me Kevin Durant. If I need somebody to score me 50 points, I don't know if I'd probably say Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, LeBron, maybe Hakeem on this list, and then maybe Steph Curry after that. the thing with Steph is, yeah, he is very good at ball handling and shooting off the dribble. And even on nights where his shot is not hitting, he's still able to get to the basket, or he's still able to hit a pull up mid range jumper. Very good offensively, but he is 6'1", or maybe 6 feet tall. He's not the biggest guard where you have a Michael Jordan who's a shooting guard at 6'6", super strong, or you have a Kevin Durant who's basically a 7 foot tall small forward, or LeBron James who's a 250, 60 pounds in his prime, 6'9", small forward, ripped, super athletic. Kobe Bryant in his prime. You want to talk about number 8 Kobe, where he was super athletic, or you want to talk about super technical Kobe, where he had every single move down and there was no way for you to stop him. It was just only a matter of him not hitting shots. It wasn't like, oh, I'll be able to block him. Yeah, you can contest him, but it's is he hitting the shots? That's what it is with Kobe. It's just not as, oh, he got locked up. It's like, no, he was able to get to his spots. He was able to get his moves out, but he just wasn't able to put down the shots. It doesn't matter what you do. He's going to get to his spot. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants. I don't know. I think it's really important that we do talk about this stuff, and to give him credit. Yeah. Steph Curry, and one of the best offensive players, I would have to say. Has some more stuff over here. Okay, interesting. All right, so that's that article. Now, let's come back over here. I have to say it. I'm going to give my top 10 NBA players of all time. Here's my list. Number 1 through 10 as well. Number 1, Michael Jordan. Number 2, LeBron James. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 4, Magic Johnson. Number 5, Larry Bird. Number 6, Kobe Bryant. Number 7, Wilt Chamberlain. Number 8, Tim Duncan. Number 9, Shaquille O'Neal. And number 10, Hakeem Olajuwon. Just talked about it, but Steph Curry is not in my top 10. I do not think him winning a 4th title puts him into the top 10. Sorry, but that is where I'm sitting at right now. I do not believe that Steph Curry is a top 10 NBA player of all time. And going through my list, I mean, I think the first 3 are set. Some people will definitely say switch Michael and LeBron. I can understand that. For me, the thing with Michael Jordan as the best NBA player of all time is resume does come into play for me. It is an important thing. If you look at a resume and you see, oh, these things are on it. It's hard. Now let's go over to this screen. I really like this website, landofbasketball.com. Really like this. NBA championships and seasons. This is kind of seals the deal for me. LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Some people, like, if you ask Skip Bayless, LeBron's probably not in his top 5. And even that I can understand. At a top 10, no way. But if you put him at number 5 or 6, all right, I don't agree, but there is an argument to be made. 6 championships, 6-0 in the finals for Michael Jordan. For a lot of people, that seals the deal. But context is Michael Jordan also had a really good team, and in some of those finals, he didn't really play the best. You look at the Lakers team that he played, his first championship. Good team, good, solid team. I don't know if it was really the toughest championship that one could possibly win. But still, as it may, 6-0 in the NBA Finals. 15 seasons played. I mean, it's pretty much 13 real seasons where he was trying to win championships at all cost. So for me, it's 6 out of 13. Won a championship in almost half of his career. Playoffs, 15 seasons, 13 seasons of playoffs. LeBron, 19 seasons, 15 playoffs. It'll probably be 20 and 16 after next year. I think they'll be able to get to the playoffs, but recently in the past, LeBron has not been able to make the playoffs. And he's still supposed to be the best player in the world. A lot of people, you can make an argument that he is. When Michael Jordan played for the Wizards, could you make an argument that he was the best player on the face of the earth? I don't know. I mean, Kobe was still pretty good. Tracy McGrady, Allen Iverson at that time. There were good players in that league. Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can. A 40-year-old Michael Jordan. I don't think he was better than Shaquille O'Neal at that time. But to each their own. All-Star games, 19 seasons of LeBron, 18 of them All-Star games, 15 seasons for Jordan, 14 of them All-Star games. MVPs, 5 MVPs for Michael Jordan. Finals MVP, 6 Finals MVPs. 10 All-NBA first team selections. Total All-NBA selections, 11 for Michael Jordan, 18 for LeBron out of his 19 seasons. He's been an All-NBA selection, which is pretty crazy. 11 out of 15 for Michael Jordan. Here's where I kind of feel like they separate. All defensive first teams, 9 for Michael Jordan out of his 15 seasons, 5 for LeBron out of his 19 seasons. Total selections, 9. So Michael Jordan was never selected to an all defense team unless it was the first team. Pretty crazy. Defensive player of the year, 1 for Michael Jordan. Another one that seals the deal for me is 10 scoring titles for Michael Jordan compared to 1 for LeBron. Now, LeBron was able to be assist leader, which I think is crazy for a small forward. Steals leader, 3 for Michael Jordan. Both won Rookie of the Year. Here's how their stats kind of match up. I really don't think that I have to, this is another cool tool that they do as well. So they look at the best season in terms of points per game. In 2006, LeBron averaged 31.4 points per game. Michael Jordan in 1987 averaged 37.1 points per game. Rebounds per game. In 2018, LeBron averaged 8.6 rebounds per game. In 1989, Michael Jordan averaged 8. Assists per game. In 2020, LeBron James averaged 10.2 assists per game. In 1989, Michael Jordan averaged 8 assists per game. Same year that he had his most rebounds per game as well. Steals per game. In 2005, LeBron James averaged 2.2 steals per game. In 1988, Michael Jordan averaged 3.2 steals per game. And blocks per game. 2009, LeBron James averaged 1.1 rebounds per game. And in 1988, Michael Jordan averaged 1.6 blocks per game. So 3.2 steals and 1.6 blocks in 1 year. Pretty crazy. Following it up, the year before, you led the league in scoring. Then after you lead the league in scoring, the next season, you lead the league in steals, and you have your most blocks of your career. Then after that, you put up a season where you have the most assists and rebounds of your career. Pretty good 3-year stretch. Now, you didn't have playoff success, but that is close to come, folks. Here's total points, all this other stuff. Now let's go to another best of. So, best playoffs, as you can see here, 1986, Michael Jordan, 43.7. Didn't play a lot of games in that series. This, I think it was one series where they got beat by the Boston Celtics. So that's why it's that. But anyway, be that as it may, to kind of talk about the other players as well, I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some people could absolutely make the claim that he is the best of all time, because you look at high school to college to the NBA, nobody has won as much as Kareem. He's the all-time leading scorer. If not the leader in rebounds, he's in the top 2 or 3. Played for a bunch of years, was good for a really long time, one for the Bucks and one for the Lakers. Him and Magic are probably the best duo of all time, including Jordan and Scottie. I think they're a really good squad. Followed by Magic Johnson. I think Magic Johnson, without question, greatest point guard of all time. Offensively was one of the best of all time, even though he could not shoot. And defensively, he was so big that it was really hard to go against him, especially if you're 6 foot. He's got 9 inches. It's hard to play against that. Then followed by Larry Bird. I mean, 3 MVPs in a row is pretty crazy. Him and the Celtics were really good. I do think the Celtics teams and the Lakers teams, when they matched up in the finals, those were pretty exciting. I do think you should go back and watch some of those. Number 6, Kobe Bryant. I do think in his prime, in Kobe's prime, he was probably better than Magic and Larry Bird in his prime. The only thing is that Kobe, for his entirety of his career, he was always a really good player, but he did not really come unto his own and where he was really able to start winning. Like you look at his last 2 championships, he was probably, him and LeBron James were the best players in the league. I mean, he was such a lethal assassin, would offensively and defensively. I think Kobe Bryant is almost a better defender than LeBron. Obviously, perimeter defender, I would absolutely believe that Kobe is a better perimeter defender than LeBron James. But once you get down to the post, I would have to take LeBron there. But with that being said, one of the greatest scorers that we have ever seen. A lot of people call him the best difficult shot maker ever. I think he's one of the most technical guards that we've ever seen, him and Michael Jordan. But the reason why I put him here is because of the later in his career, he really wasn't able to, due to injuries for the most part, wasn't able to really have a lot of success with his team. He had multiple years where he had a really bad squad around him, and he wasn't able to elevate them to any real meaningful status. So then after that, Wilt Chamberlain, the single greatest statistical player of all time, did play in an era with Bill Russell, so he wasn't able to really win a lot of championships. But him, Jerry West, and Gail Goodrich on the Lakers was pretty special. And him early in his career, the season where he averaged 50 points a game, you look at all the rebounds record, it's him and Bill Russell. One of the greatest defenders of all time, one of the most athletic players we've ever seen in the NBA, who's a 7-footer. I mean, he was a freaking Olympian. Very good. Kind of like the first kind of Shaq. If he lived in today's game, he would be just an absolute dominant player because he was so athletic and it was so difficult to stop him. He was a very good player. Then after that, Tim Duncan. I mean, you look at Tim Duncan as just straight up defensive player, you have to say, without question, greatest defending power forward of all time. I think in terms of defensive players, it's probably, for big men, Tim Duncan and Hakeem Olajuwon. That's the 2 right there for best defensive players. And then Tim Duncan, what he did with the Spurs, even though they did have Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, kind of like the Warriors, where they have three solid players that stay on the team for a good long time. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. I don't know if those players are as good as Klay Thompson and Draymond combined. I'm not sure. Different different players, but I do think that Draymond Green in his prime in those couple of years on the Warriors defensively, there was just no difference. And for him to be a facilitator on offense, every so often hit a couple of shots, super valuable. And then Klay Thompson, one of the greatest shooters of all time. So I would take them over Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. And I think Tim Duncan is one of the greatest offensive post players we've ever seen. He's been, and for years he was consistent. Years he was consistent. And then after that, I have Shaquille O'Neal, probably besides Wilt Chamberlain, the most dominant offensive player that has ever touched a basketball. Just a giant human. When he was in Orlando, he was, you could make an argument that that was where he was his best, because he wasn't super big. He was much leaner, and he was so much better with ball handling. He would take the ball up and down the court. He was super agile and super fast. But he didn't have the power that he was able to have once he got to the Lakers. And even later with the Miami Heat winning that title with them, he was able to take a back seat. He was able to be like, all right, I'll be here when you need me. Dwayne Wade, this is you. Really solid. Really solid. In his prime, he was the best player in the league, and there was not even a question about it, even when he had Kobe Bryant on his team. Then number 10 for me is Hakeem Olajuwon. I would say probably, like I said, him and Tim Duncan are the two best defensive big men I've ever seen. And in terms of low post offense, it's Hakeem Olajuwon and then the rest. I mean, he's really the first player to revolutionize kind of the technique and the footwork that it takes to be a low post offensive player. Absolutely eviscerated people. And defensively, we know what he was, all-time leader in blocks. When there was a vacuum after Michael Jordan retired for his first time, he was the player who carried his team to back-to-back championships. And they had a good team surrounding, but you knew who the star was of that team. Absolutely phenomenal player. So that's my top 10. I think Steph Curry is close, but it's kind of hard for me to say that there's a player that's better than those 10 people right there. Some people would say put Kevin Durant in there because of him being a 7-foot tall guy who can play defense and offense, one of the greatest offensive players of all time. Yeah. In terms of a player, that's kind of an argument. In terms of a player, he's got everything going for him. He can play offense and defense, and he's also 7 feet tall, can dribble the ball like nobody. Yeah, it's hard, but you look at his resume. Was not able to, without Steph Curry, has not been able to have real good success with Oklahoma City. Yes, was able to have real success, get to an NBA Finals. You have to give him props there as a super young player coming into the league. I believe he led the league in scoring as a rookie. Always been a great scorer, always been a great defender. And also, he's another good thing that's good about Kevin Durant is he stayed healthy. But I think when it comes to top 10 players, I don't think so, because he doesn't have the resume. So you need to have a resume. That's my top 10 list, unfortunately. And then last thing I want to touch on before hopping off is talk a little bit about Rome. So I've been reading a book. It's called The Illustrated Encyclopedia of Ancient Rome by Nigel Rogers. I really have found a lot of interest in Rome and kind of the rise and fall of it. Didn't really listen a lot in history class during school. So this is something that I've found a newfound interest in. And I really find it cool how there was this place in modern day Italy that was the epicenter of the world for a short period of time. I mean, at the time of its peak, I believe they had 20% or 25% of the world's population. For a period of time, it was either Rome or China who were the biggest places in the world, most powerful. So I think it's incredibly cool, the Roman Empire. And I've also gone to Rome as well, and I wasn't able to enjoy like the Colosseum or all this stuff because I didn't know about all this stuff. We've got to go see some ruins, and I'm like, all right, what is this? But now reading up on kind of the entire dynasty, realizing how much importance there is in this thing. And as I go on, I'll definitely be talking more about Rome as I learn more about it, because I just think it's so fascinating, like in terms of Christianity and how Christianity was able to propagate throughout the world is extremely tied into the Roman Empire as well. And other religions as well. I mean, the Catholic religion, many religions. But with that being said, one of the things that I've kind of seen so far, learning about Rome and the Roman Empire, is yeah, obviously there's the Senate, there's a republic, all that kind of stuff, the government stuff, the Latin, the language, and that kind of stuff. But one of the things I've found really interesting is the money supply, and kind of one of the reasons why the Roman Empire eventually declined. And I definitely want to talk about this more in the future because there's many different things. But one thing I've kind of seen currently right now, based on a very preliminary view on this, is how the money supply was ultimately part of the downfall. Because if you don't have an economy, if your money doesn't mean anything, it's not worth anything, it's very hard to have a well-functioning country, and especially to have control over people. So here's where I want to go. Made trading easier. So Roman silver coins. Overlapping the circulation of the A's grave was the introduction of the silver coinage. During the 3rd century BC, Roman moneyers were forced to become more compliant with other cultures for ease in trade. The Greeks had been producing silver coins since the 7th century BC, and silver was the basis of their system. The Romans imported Greek artisans and began minting silver coins of their own, with a style influenced by Greece. First of these silver coins were a series of didrachms. Coins were struck in Neapolis and were most likely made to be compliant with the trading specification of the Greeks. All right, silver denarius. The denarius, silver coin that would become the mainstay of the Roman economy, was struck first in 211 BC. And approximately a century later, in 118 BC, it was reevaluated to be, so I don't even know. So original value was 10 asses. Probably saying that wrong, but that's how it's spelled. ASSES. That's how it's spelled. All right. Don't get me banned. And then in 118 BC, it was 16 asses, to reflect the shrinking size of the bronze and copper. And then here's where it start declining. Denarius remained the backbone for 5 centuries. Silver content and accompanying value slowly decreased over time. And part of the reason was because they didn't use a good enough quality of silver. They stopped putting the silver into the coins. And let's go over to Wikipedia over here. This is a Wikipedia on Roman currency. And so this is kind of what I'm talking about. If you look here over on the left in the 240s, you can see the rapid decline of their particular currency, Antoninus. In the 240s, the coin itself was about 40% silver. 10 years later, it goes down to 30%. 10 more years later, it goes down to 20%. So in 20 years, it's already lost half of the amount of silver. And silver is what's giving the money its value. So you have to think the coin has basically lost half of its value. The money supply is lost basically. If you have one of these, it's basically lost half of its value in 20 years. Now, people weren't living that long back then, but with that being said, 20 years, you lose half the value of your money. And then it gets worse in the 270s, where coins are 5% silver. And once you get to that point, it's very, very, very hard to have a substantial amount of money without having your entire house filled with it. I mean, inflation was so bad within the span of 30 years, you are basically at 1/8 of what your value was 30 years ago. In terms of you have one, well, one used to be one back in the day, but now it's 8. You need 8 of these in order to equal the value of what it was just 30 years ago. So a rapid decline in the not only most likely money supply, because they didn't have the same supply of silver, so they had to decrease the purity of their coins, which is just fascinating. I'm glad we don't do that with our dollar bills, because that'd be interesting. But we're talking very early periods of time. We're not even talking about we're talking about pretty much the first century, first couple centuries. The Roman Empire was pretty much broke. It was some broke boys. Ain't nothing wrong about that, but I do think that is one of the reasons why that the empire ultimately started to crumble. Because if you do not have cash flow, if you do not have a type of currency that is valuable and that other people want. Now, other people did want the currency because it was from Rome, because it was the Roman Empire. So there was always that, even until the end, I believe. But the actual value of the money kept decreasing. And we're even seeing it right now with inflation. Groceries are going up. Obviously, gas is growing up. You are able to see that your paycheck that you're getting what, say a $500 paycheck. Now $500 today feels like $400 maybe a year or two ago. And so things have been changing. I mean, I look at grocery bills my wife and I have to pay. I look at the gas prices in which I pay, because I don't fill up my tank based on fill it all the way up. I do it. All right, I'm gonna spend $25. All right, I'm gonna get $50 of gas. I'm gonna get $75. I'm gonna get. That's how I do it. And so when I just pretty much just do. All right, let's do $50. $50. That used to be way more than what I needed to fill up my tank. I used to do 25, 30, 40. I remember when $40 could get you a little bit under 20 gallons of gas. I do remember that. That's one of the times when I first started working and I had a car and I had to drive myself to work. And part of the reason why I got a job was so I could pay the gas, and I would get cash sometime and I would hoard all this cash and I would use it to buy gas. But I guess I say that to say this: make sure that you are keeping your money right, because we do not want to fall like the Roman Empire. And I do want to talk about the Roman Empire in the future, but I guess for today, I'm done. The Roman Empire was one of the greatest pieces of history that we do have on our current planet. Maybe there's another planet that has a more interesting history, but I think one of the reasons why that civilization of the Roman Empire ultimately failed was due to their money losing its value so quickly. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been listening. I really do appreciate all the support, all of the, even if you don't watch all the way in, if you're listening right now, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means a lot to me that people actually will listen to what I have to say, because otherwise I would just be saying all this to my wife. And she does not have the time. I think I've been here for 3 hours. I'm not sure. My wife does not have all the time for me to just sit and just talk to her about all this stuff. So I thank you, thank you, thank you for giving me the opportunity to sit down and to talk about this. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully, you guys have a good rest of your day. Don't have to agree with everything I say. Hopefully, one day I'll be able to have people on this podcast that disagree with me. And if I can't refute their arguments, then maybe they're right. And I want to kind of be as objective, as honest as I possibly can. I don't want to ever hide anything. I don't want this to become something where I'm hiding things from people because I want more views, and I don't want my reputation tainted. I want to be honest and I want to be truthful with the audience, because I've done enough lying in my life to know that it's never a good thing. And I want to say thank you for listening. This is the Zach Moore podcast. Check it out. iTunes, Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify now with video. Check me out on Rumble. Follow my Twitter page. I think it's Zach Moore _sports, or it could just be Zach Moore Sports on Twitter. Instagram account got hacked. I probably should have said this at the beginning of the podcast. Fortunately, I didn't. But podcast has been hacked. It is Zach Moore _sports with the Z now. It got hacked. Name changed. If I message you, I apologize. That is not me. Do not listen to that. My new Instagram account is Zach Moore Sports. Thank you so much for listening. Really do appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I got to say. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Peace out.